This is the Sunseeker V3 wireless robot lawn mower. I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it, because I went into it with the same questions most people have. Will it be a pain to set up? Will it get stuck? Will it chew up the lawn edges? And will it actually save me time or just give me a new thing to babysit? The kind of person this makes sense for is someone with a smaller to medium yard who wants the grass kept under control without carving out part of the weekend to do it. If you like the idea of the lawn staying consistently trimmed, rather than letting it grow and then doing a big loud mow, that is the way I ended up using it. It is also for someone who does not want to mess with running boundary wires around the yard. I have done that before with other stuff, and I did not want another project. What makes this one different in daily life is that I did not have to put wires in the ground or set up a bunch of hardware around the yard. I placed the charging base in a spot that was easy for it to reach, made sure it had a clear path, and then I started it. That was basically it. I expected a longer setup with more steps, but in practice, it was more like setting down the dock and letting the mower start learning. Physically, it looks modern without being flashy. The body has that silver-gray look, and in person it feels solid. It is not one of those plastic-feeling gadgets that creaks when you pick it up. It is also lighter than I expected. It is a little over 20 pounds, so I can carry it one-handed if I need to move it around the side yard. On the front, the two cameras are the first thing you notice. They sit up front like a pair of eyes, and that matches how it behaves, because it relies a lot on what it sees to figure out where to go and what to avoid. The cutting width is 8 inches, and that sounds small when you say it out loud. In my yard, though, it worked out because the whole point is that it goes out more often and keeps things maintained. I stopped thinking about it like a normal mower that needs to finish everything in one pass. I started thinking about it like a maintenance tool that is quietly working in the background. The first real test for me was my back edge, where the grass meets a slightly lower dirt path. That is exactly where I have seen simple robot mowers get confused or just bump until they fall off an edge. With this one, it consistently saw the drop and turned away before the wheels went over. I watched it do that multiple times because I did not trust it at first. It never took the plunge, and it did not get trapped in that area either. It felt like it learned that boundary quickly, and then it repeated the same safe behavior every time after that. Obstacle avoidance was the next thing I paid attention to, because my yard is not a clean, empty rectangle. I have a trampoline, some kid stuff that gets left out, and a dog that is curious and sometimes gets in the way. In my use, it was cautious. It did not ram into things. When a ball was left out, it went around it. When my dog walked close, it slowed down and changed direction. I also noticed it could get under the outer edge of the trampoline and cut there, which is usually an annoying spot for me with a regular mower. I still had to move a couple of low-hanging things, like a bush with branches that sit too close to the ground, because that can snag any mower, robot or not. One time it did wedge itself under a bush line where the branches drooped. It stopped and sent an alert, and I had to pull it out. After I trimmed that area a little, it stopped happening. Noise is a big deal in real life. This is one of the first robot mowers I have used where I could genuinely forget it was running. It is rated around 55 decibels, and that matches what it feels like. It sounds more like a steady indoor fan than a lawn tool. I could take a phone call outside and not feel like I needed to shout. My neighbors did not comment on it at all, and that is honestly a good sign. I ended up running it early in the morning a couple of times, and it did not feel rude the way a gas mower would. If your yard has slopes, this matters. My property has a section that is not crazy steep, but it is steep enough that some small-wheeled stuff struggles for traction. Sunseeker says it can handle up to a 22-degree slope, and in my testing, it handled my sloped side area without slipping. It did not fishtail or tear up the grass, and it stayed on course well enough to finish the section. I would not expect it to climb a loose dirt hill, but on grass, on a normal residential slope, it was steady. Battery behavior was predictable, which is what I want. It runs for around 50 minutes in my yard before it decides it is time to head back. When it gets down to about 30%, it stops trying to squeeze out a few more minutes and just returns to the base. Charging takes around an hour and a half, and then it goes back out. If the grass is thick, or if you have a yard with a lot of separate areas, it can take more than one run to cover everything. For me, that was fine because I set it on a schedule and let it chip away. The lawn stayed even, and I did not feel like I was waiting on it to finish. Daily use ended up being mostly hands-off, but there are a couple of real-world details. The yard needs to be reasonably tidy. If you leave out cords, dog toys with strings, or random debris, you are creating problems for any robot mower. I got into the habit of doing a quick walkthrough, which took me maybe 1 minute, and then I let it run. When it finishes or needs charging, it returns on its own. The mobile app is useful but not perfect. I used it to set schedules, check status, and see what it had been doing. It also helped when I wanted it to focus on certain areas. If your yard is split into different zones, you can manage that with the app and magnetic tags, and it works, but it takes a little patience to understand at first. The language in the app can feel more technical than it needs to be. Once I got used to it, I mostly left it alone. I will say, if your wireless internet connection is weak in the yard, you might see some lag or the app taking a moment to update. The mower still did its job, but the app experience depends a lot on your signal outdoors. I also like the rain detection because it matches how I actually treat my lawn. When rain started or sprinklers kicked on, it backed out and returned to the base instead of grinding through wet grass. Wet cutting is where you get clumps and mess, and it is also harder on the machine. I set it so it waits a while after rain before going back out, and that kept things cleaner. Security is simple, and I appreciate simple. There is a personal identification number system. If you do not have the code, the mower is basically unusable. That does not stop someone from physically taking it, but it does mean it is not an easy steal and use situation. Cleaning has been easy. It is rated as water resistant, so I rinse grass off with a hose. I do not blast it like I am pressure washing a driveway. I just rinse and wipe, and it is fine. Regular maintenance has mostly been checking the blade area for packed grass and making sure the wheels are clear. Cut quality is good for maintenance mowing. It keeps the lawn looking consistently trimmed. It is not the same as doing careful stripes with a push mower, and it will not magically fix a yard with weird corners and tight little cutouts. There were a couple spots along edges where I still did a quick touch-up every week or two, mainly because my yard has some awkward shapes. But the overall look was neat, and the lawn stayed at the height I wanted without me planning my day around it. Cutting height adjustment goes from about 1.6 inches up to 3.2 inches, and that covered what I needed for my grass. So after living with it, the strengths are pretty clear to me. Setup was quick. It navigated my boundaries without wires. It avoided obstacles better than I expected, and it was quiet enough that I could run it without thinking about bothering anyone. The limitations are also real. It is built for around 0.15 acres, so if you have a larger property, you will probably feel the time and battery limits. The app can be slightly fussy if your connection outside is not great. And like any robot mower, you still need to keep the yard reasonably free of junk and handle the occasional rescue if it finds an awkward spot. Overall, it did what I wanted. It reduced the amount of time I personally spend mowing, and it kept the lawn looking steady instead of cycling between overgrown and freshly cut. If you have a smaller to medium yard and you want something that can handle regular maintenance with minimal setup, this has been a practical tool in my routine. If you have any questions about how it would handle your yard layout, leave a comment and I will try to help based on what I have seen. And if you want more real-world reviews like this, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.